So I'm making a belt to connect these two wheels using an offcut of some sandpaper, a belt sandpaper. And Dad has suggested to put it at an angle and then attach it together. And I think it'll work. I'm going to faff with that for a bit. You can see it's got a longer edge there, and that will drive that wheel. I felt for a little while like I'd made a mistake working the pulleys, not the pulleys, but you know what I mean, working the cans from above. And the reason that I'd done that was purely because it was I'd seen some pictures of the old Victorian ones where all of the mechanisms were above. And then I thought, oh well, that was silly because now I've got to make these pulls and things. But actually, the risers, the lifters. But actually, if I'd done it from below, the wave mechanism, I mean, it wouldn't have had to be permanent, but the holes in the floor would have been. So it has worked out right. But there was a little moment after I'd made the lifters, that I was like, oh no, what have I done? Another possibly a mistake that I made was with the risers, the lifter things. I don't know what to call them. The lifts, because they need more movement than I'd originally allowed for. So I've cut the cutaways bigger, and I've moved the drill holes as well. For the pin, that's like a pin pivot thing that I've made. Yeah, I used a cut up, the old wire coat hangers, through the pivot holes, just to make it nice and strong, and to hold it together. And what it means is that because they move at different sides, move differently, but they've also got to remain, like they've got internal frame inside them. The frame of the puppet theatre is inside the lifts, so they've got to be able to have a bit of manoeuvrability, a bit of flexibility, and this was just the simplest way that I could think of doing it. the sort of the swags of the curtain, you sort of using a bobbin sander, and it was never going to be realistic. None of this was going to be realistic, but I wanted to give the front a bit of dimension rather than just layers, the flat layers. And even though I knew I was going to paint into it, I wanted it to have something, maybe some physical shadows as well. And when the red and the black go on, it really does give a Victorian variety show, or you can imagine there being a some sort of um, magician on the stage or something. It's quite nice. The sea occupies a really curious place in the imagination. It's both a road and a barrier. It can bring adventure and wealth and discovery, but also unpredictability and danger. The sea plays a big part in a lot of folklore and stories and fairy tales and like songs and poems. And part of the reason for that is just human geography. People need to be around water to live, and the sea itself is very connected. So it connects communities, it brings trade, it carries fishermen to work, but it also can carry people away forever. So, for various reasons, I'm having a bit of a rethink of my cam mechanism. Not that it doesn't work, it does work, but the thing is, so while these do turn, the cams do turn, and it does work really well, the mechanism, I'm not convinced that this is strong enough. So I brought the puppet theatre down, 3 flights of stairs from the attic, so I'm a bit flushed. And I'm going to take it off and try with something a bit sturdier, a bit more robust. So I'm cut the dowel off and re-drill it, and then put something heftier in. I'm looking up here for some dowel. Dad said he's got some, so I didn't get any more. So I'm not. A lot of this looks like it might be it, and then it ends up something else. Because this looks like it might be it, but it's actually some sort of. I don't know what that is. Oh! We might have a winner. I thought this was a pipe. This might be. Hang on. A visitor. Hello, Greaves. Hello. This is why everything takes a while. Between the cat, the dog, and the farm. The sea turns up everywhere in folklore and literature, especially the sort of stuff that I studied. Sailors encounter mermaids and sea serpents. Heroes go out on voyages in distant lands. Islands appear out of the mist. Storms scatter ships onto unknown shores. Even when the stories aren't really about the sea becomes the thing that separates the ordinary world from somewhere stranger. Before modern travel, crossing the sea would have meant leaving behind everything familiar. It wasn't just a journey from one place to another, it was a journey into uncertainty. That's exactly the sort of thing that stories thrive on. You can see it in poems as well. Coleridge's Ancient Mariner sails into supernatural waters. Uh, Lear's Jumblies set off in a sieve. Owl and the Pussycat voyage away in their beautiful pea green boat. And again, the sea becomes a place where ordinary rules no longer quite apply. That's one reason I knew I wanted moving waves in this theatre. The sea in these stories isn't really realistic, it's theatrical, it's symbolic, it's the threshold between the everyday world and the world of the imagination. It's exactly what a puppet theatre likes to be. I've done it on one side, but it's not gone completely through on the other. Okay. I'm glad that I made the decision to faff with the cam system and to take it all out again, because long term it is going to be a sort of a more longer lasting system. But there were a couple of moments where I was clamping the cams down to the drill press. I was thinking, what have I done with my life? Why have I done this? But it was definitely worth it. So it was also important for me that it wasn't just like sea stories that I'd be able to tell. I wanted to be able to tell stories with other that are set in other places with other settings. So it did have to have a flat inside. So it is okay that I've got this ridiculously complicated contraption. I was talking to a friend of mine in one of my poetry writing groups about what I'm doing, and she has, and I wanted to do all loads of like traditional poems and things, and she has suggested some Baba Yaga stories, and I don't know those stories very well. It's not really my culture. She's from, it was Yugoslavia when she left. She moved to England in the 80s, and she suggested that we write some poems in English about some of the Baba Yaga stories together, and that I'm excited by as well. So there's all sorts of exciting things that I want to do. I'm very excited. This is quite a nice project. Oh, a nice project. I think if I've worked this out right, I can staple this. Got a bit of scrap here. I think yes, I can staple this. That'll work nicely. So I've got tape. I've got duct tape. I've got the thing, the belt. Turn this one so you can see. So what should happen when we turn this wheel, the belt will drive this wheel. In theory. Like that. Haha, yes. So I'm going to tape that, and the tape should hold it, but belt and braces, right? I'll show you. That's very exciting. I don't think the belt's going to fall off. I did just play with the cam mechanism for ages, just winding it. I loved it. I was very excited. But there's the staple joint. And that will drive my cam mechanism, which will drive my lifts. Yep. Which will drive my lifts. The waves are 3mm foam core board cut into a shape and stuck onto the battens. So the same plywood that I use to make the theatre out of, as a strip of that just goes through the middle, of those holes where the risers are, where the lifters are, and will be lifted, and then it's stuck onto there. They're just painted with a mixture of whatever acrylic paints I had lying around, um, and they're going to be painted with slightly different patterns, which I think might be quite cool. We'll find out if it works or not. And because they're removable, I can change the order around that they go. They can go front and back. They can move forwards or backwards in the order. I can also have different waves for different weathers as well. So I could have some gentle undulating waves, or I could have some great big scary waves as well for like a tempest. And the sea isn't always going to be blue, so I think we could do a lot with that. It'll be fun painting them. But I tell you what, I was so impressed when it all comes together at the end. It is out of my head, and it's worked better than I thought it would. Yeah, I think it's gorgeous. Yeah.